Good morning, Weston Middle School. Today's video is going to be more serious than normal. I wanted to finally address the protests that are happening all over our country right now. I totally should have done this on Friday when the action was still happening, and I did not address that then, and that is my fault. I will be better on that. Um, these protests are happening all over the country because there's been so much overt racism, so much unnecessary violence towards Black people recently that has been just too much, and we've kind of reached a breaking point. And as a society, there's many of us have decided to stand up and fight for what's right, and fight for um, people treating people the way they need to be treated and they should be treated. So what I'm going to do next here is I'm going to give you a couple stories that have happened recently that you need to know about. And I think once you understand those two stories, and then we talk about a few other things that have happened just in recent history, I think that you'll understand why change is needed right now, and it's going to take us working together to figure that out. All right, so these two, news stories that have filled up social media and everybody's thoughts and all that are about two African American men that were unarmed, that were killed because people thought they did something because of the way they look. So this is George Floyd. He was a father of two. He was a security guard, and he was killed by policemen in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So this happened a week ago today, and since this happened, and the video of it was posted online, the country has erupted, and as we just ran out of steam with things like this happening. So that's why you're seeing the protests everywhere. This kind of like re-spurred it. Again, he was unarmed. He was saying he couldn't breathe, and then he ended up dying. So obviously a tragic event. So here's some of the protesting with the Black Lives Matter signs and no justice, no peace, no more, all these things. And people are really just hoping for justice, I think, and preventing future events like this. So according to the news, like most updated, I think, that I read today, was that, the police officer that, actually killed him is under arrest. And so hopefully there is justice there. But that was the most recent one. And again, this came to light because of social media and because a video was posted. So people found out about it and they were outraged. And the next story I'm going to tell you about didn't come out for 2 months, and it's kind of scary what happened. Okay, so this next story is about Ahmaud Arbery. He's a 25-year-old African American man who was running in a neighborhood in Georgia, and two white men saw him running, didn't recognize him, and basically said, "Oh, we thought he was the guy that had robbed a couple houses," so they ran him down, and there was a scuffle. And again, Ahmaud was unarmed, and the other men were not, and Ahmaud ended up getting shot to death. So this is scary because it happened all the way back in February, and it didn't come to light until May. So, there had already been an investigation. There had already been no evidence of this happening. The people believe, the police believed the white men who had run this guy down, saying that he had stolen something and was running away. And thankfully the video came out, and these two men will get justice. You hope, but it's just scary, right? Because 2 months go by, and this made up story that these two men said was believed, and there was no justice then, right? So the videos actually came out, and that's the thing that ended up, you know, bringing this all to light and getting some justice, right? Which is great. But again, another needless event with an unarmed man getting killed for no reason, for something he was just accused of doing or thought of and doing because of the way he looks. He's a son. Imagine, I can't imagine having one of my kids just murdered because of the way they looked. So I'm going to talk about a couple more things here in a minute. So the next story I'm going to tell you is about Amy Cooper and Christian Cooper. So Christian Cooper is a black man who was walking through Central Park, and he walked by Amy Cooper, who had her dog off of her leash, and he asked her to put the dog on a leash. Pretty normal request, just walking through the park, minding his own business basically, and felt unsafe because the dog was loose. So Amy Cooper got so upset with him that she called the police and basically made it sound like she was being attacked, when all that happened was that she was asked to put her dog on a leash. So this type of racism is really scary, right? No one got hurt physically during this. I'd like to say that I don't know anyone that would hurt someone like George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery. But I'm afraid I do know a lot of Amy Coopers, right? And I do know people that would use race against people like this, right? I might be related to some Amy Coopers. Okay, so this type of racism makes people feel unsafe also. And this type of racism is also unacceptable. And it happens every day, everywhere, all over the country. So again, totally unacceptable. Treating people the wrong way because of the way they look is not okay. Wanted to end today's video with a few more pictures, a few more things to think about. This is a quote from Angela Davis, who's a really cool activist who's a professor in California. It is not enough to be quietly non-racist. Now is the time to be vocally anti-racist. And what that quote means to me is that I can't just sit at home anymore and not hate people, right, and say that I'm doing enough, right? It's our job to take this head on, right? Our country is in a crisis, and we need to stand together and work together to stop this unacceptable behavior. So I'm going to try to do that, and I'm asking you to do the same. I know you've seen the "hate has no home here" signs everywhere. That is so true for Weston Middle School, right? From Weston Public Schools, for Weston, for Massachusetts, for the country. It's just not acceptable. I tell you guys about the golden rule all the time, right? You treat people the way you want to be treated. You show people respect because they deserve it, and you expect the same. This is from a few years ago when we got the Stand Together sign. Mr. Gibbons and I planned Unity Day 3 years ago, or over 2 years ago, I guess 3 full Unity Days ago. This is Roland Gibson, who was a civil rights activist and ended up working in Metco and doing amazing things in Weston. He came to speak at our Unity Day a couple years ago. And then we have Inga, who came in this year, and you know her story. And here, Mr. Gibbons and I again, still in front of that Stand Together sign. And I want every single one of the students in our school to understand that the teachers, the staff, Mr. Gibbons and I, we stand together against racism, against hatred, okay? And it's your job to stand with us and make this world a better place, all right? We can do this. Thank you for listening.